want to do, you want to choose all attendees and panelists when you pull down that little blue arrow next to the 2, and that's going to send it to everybody. And if you want to send it to just Aunt Rosie, you could choose her name. And if you want to send it to just the panelists, you could choose. And the panelist is everybody that you see on the screen.
Yeah. And if you're having any trouble technically, I think we introduced Evan earlier, but Evan is helping us out with a bunch of technical stuff. And you can always write to me and Becca or Evan, like if there's anything you like, Owen, you know, something's happening crazy, the cat's running around our house, I delay, don't introduce me yet, or whatever it is, feel free.
I've got a friend bring me something in about 15-20 minutes. I just realized how that sentence sounded, and I'm gonna hold off until well after my performance, of course. Yeah. I'm only gonna run downstairs and then just run right back up for the rest of the show. That's fine. And Joe, what we were saying is, what we're going to do it is, I think, you know, we'll at some point, like at the end, we'll all be on and show, but we'll basically be introducing you and bringing you up on camera. And then when you're not on camera, you can just be off camera and you can still be watching, but you can take yourself off camera and off mic. So you don't have to be chained right there, like on the computer the whole time, feeling like you're being watched, listening.
I'm back. I had to get water.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah. Let's see. Well, let's see what time it is. It's 8:05. People are coming on in. I'm kind of excited. I'm in my shed. It's 102 degrees.
Very nice suit, though.
Yeah, it doesn't breathe like you think it would. But you think.
So does everybody know everyone? Because I know Becca, I think, and Owen, we met a long time ago.
We did. Yeah, in Dallas.
Trying to remember what I read because I remember I couldn't see, and I was like, let me make sure I turn on all the lights in my.
It got so dark. That's right.
It did. Yeah.
But let's see. Sundaria, we've got, well, I'm not sure how you're seeing it, but there's Jennifer Ritz is there. Jennifer, why don't you wave?
I can see the names.
Oh, yeah. And she is a novelist and also teaches writing and is a big hero of my daughter's. And then there's Joe Brundage. Joe, would you give a wave? Joe is an occasional host of One Page Salon and is also a kick-ass poet, a host of different reading series himself, and I'm glad he's joining us. And then John Pipkin. John Pipkin is a novelist, and also he is director of the undergraduate creative writing department at University of Texas. And Bill Cotter is, give a little wave, and Bill Cotter, also a novelist, and also a middle grade novelist. He, published 2 books with McSweeney's, and then a middle grade adventure novel. So, yeah, we got a whole slew of cool folks.
Is everybody in Austin except for me? I'm the only person.
I think so. Tim Bauer, who's the last guy it introduced, he's a playwright. He's actually been living in San Francisco for years, but just moved back to Austin. So yeah, this is kind of an Austin-centric one tonight. I think we'll expand more, but we appreciate some folks from outside of Austin being here.
Oh yeah, I'll let your authors know that I host a literary reading series called Lit Night. I think I started it after we met, Owen. And generally we hold it in person like you guys do, but we've been online since April, and our next one is June 9th. So please email me. I think we're all on the same email somewhere, but if you're ever interested in, if you're interested in coming online to read for us, I'd be happy to have you. Just email me, respond to the email that we have there. So we try to keep it more about Texas people. So, but Tuesday is our 2-year anniversary. So we do have one person from Austin, Deb Olin. Deb Olin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything is skipping me my mind right now. But yeah, she'll be reading with us, and we have Natalie Bazile, who wrote Queen Sugar.
Deb was on our first virtual one-page salon in May, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, nice. Yeah, we had our first online was April, but it's been going. I think it's been going well. It's nerve-wracking to be online, but here we are, right?
Right. I've learned a lot about Zoom in the last few months, for sure.
I'm still learning. I'm really still learning. I finished up my classes on Zoom and was very happy with myself for that. But basically, I'm still learning.
Well, I tell you what. Let's go ahead and what do you think, Becca? Should we get started?
Yeah, I'm just sending, we had some extra people who signed up and hadn't gotten the link yet because that's my fault. So I'm just sending them all the link, but you go ahead and get started, Owen.
Okay, great. Well, let's do it. Oh, look at that. There we go. So I know people like it.
Nice.
I know, there's me, my last headshot, which was a younger, cleaner me. And there's a quote from Owen Egerton, who's no relation to me, and much more successful. Well, thanks, Writers League of Texas.
I did that.
of reminding me of more successful people who share my last name.
And then for a minute I thought, is he related to Owen Egerton?
I was asked that. I was asked that by a novelist. Jessica Hageman wrote me this week. She was like, I was watching Rocket Man, and I suddenly thought, is that Owen's brother?
That is awesome.
We do have a similar body build. I really like that movie. Okay, so let's go ahead and welcome, guys. Welcome to One Page Salon. Let's go ahead. Are we bringing everyone in? I think everyone's being brought in. Is that right? Is that what's happening right now? Hopefully so. Welcome to One Page Salon. We are a gathering here in Austin, Texas, and now and beyond. We're in the past. We were a monthly gathering. We'd meet at the North Door, a very cool event space here in Austin, Texas, where writers would get together, musicians, playwrights, comedians, illustrators, and share one work or one page of a work in progress. And then we'd celebrate being together, and we'd hang out. It was a night of conversation as much as readings. And then we morphed into the internet. So we are now doing this in a virtual kind of way, and it's very, very exciting. I'm really thrilled of the lineup. A number of the folks that we have lined up are actually going to be reading, I guess it was in April, signed up for the April One Page Salon back at the North Door. We're going to have it there. So it's fun to finally get to be hearing them reading tonight. And I'm super excited. And we're here, of course, with the Writers League of Texas. Oh my gosh. Becca Oliver, it's so good to see you. So good to see you. You want to tell us a little bit about the Writers League of Texas and how cool you guys are?
Yeah, I'm going to get off my emails. Yeah, we are the, oh good, that's up, the largest literary arts organization in Texas. We exist to support writers, and we're just big fans of Owen Egerton and this event. And when Owen said he was willing to and excited to bring the One Page back, we said that we'd love to be a part of it, and also that it was such a great opportunity to create a fundraiser for our community. And so every month we're going to raise money for a different organization, someone who's doing good in the community. Sometimes it'll be a bookstore, sometimes it'll be like tonight, the Deep Vellum Emergency Fund for Texas Literary Artists, which is an organization, or I'm sorry, a fund that was started by Deep Vellum Publishing, which is a wonderful, wonderful publisher in Dallas, but also the heart, one of the beating hearts of the Dallas literary community, and they're doing such great work. And I know from talking to them recently about this fund that they're looking to put as much money into the pockets of writers in our state as possible, those who are really needing financial relief right now. I know here in Austin, the Writers League runs a school visits program, and that school visits program sends writers into public schools all over Austin, and we pay those writers to go in and do those visits. And folks who are in the kids lit world are really having a tough time losing that income right now. But then also there are folks who are going to teach classes and who were just depending on different events that they were going to speak at who have lost money. So, and I'm sure there's many other ways that our writing community is suffering. So the Deep Vellum Emergency Fund, everybody who so generously donated tonight, of course this event is free and open to everybody, but everybody who was able to offer a little bit of money to put into the fund, I want to offer you all a big thank you and say that we have raised $950. So I'll mention that 450 of that was a match that the staff and the board of the Writers League of Texas put in at the start. So I'm happy that we passed the match number and we've gone a little bit past that. But I want to thank our board members as well and our staff members who contributed. And then I just wanted to say very quickly, because I don't want to take up too much time, I'm so excited to hear these readers and so thankful to all of you for being here. But I do want to mention that if you are a writer in Texas and you are feeling, you're feeling hit financially by COVID-19 and you could use some relief at this moment, they did extend the application period for the first round of grants, and that closes on Monday, June 8th now. So you can, on our website where you signed up for this event, you can find a link back to it, but you can also just look for Deep Vellum Emergency Fund. If you're listening and you were not able to donate before the event started, but you're interested in donating, you can also find a place to donate directly to this fund. And their goal is to put between $200 and $500, if not more, in the pockets of as many writers as they can for this first go around. And then I know they're hoping to be able to do that again for writers again and again, as long as they can. So it's a great organization, Deep Vellum, but also just a really worthy cause. So thank you so much for being here and thanks for your generous support.
Thanks, Becca. Yeah, let me echo that. It is a really hard time in so many different ways. And it is great when you see different people discovering and searching for new ways to take care of each other. And this week particularly has been a hard and necessary time. And we did have discussions of, gosh, does it make sense to even be doing a reading, and how do we do this, and how do we feel about this? But when we were discussing it, the panelists and Becca and I, and what we decided that it is a right time to be celebrating words and narratives and stories and voices, and also be raising funds for people in need. And I know so many of us and you out there are hurting. And I know that our country is bleeding from a wound that's centuries old. And just, we're grateful. I'm personally grateful that you're here, and our panelists are here to share stories and share some time together. So we see our different panelists right there. You can see all the different readers are going to be reading tonight. Go ahead. I'll go ahead and name them real quickly, and since we're all on camera, and then I'm going to have everyone take themselves off of camera. So, but yeah, you can see, and I'll be introducing them back again. Like Joe Brundage, you're going to be seeing him again really soon. Tim Bauer, you can see playwright Tim Bauer. Jennifer Ritz. There's Jennifer Ritz in her beautiful living room that I've never seen inside of. Bill Cotter, so good at you. John Pipkin. Down there in his amazing fake, half those books aren't real in John Pipkin's background, by the way. That is just, he puts that up to look like he's a professor. And Sandaria, Faye, there, all our different folks. We're really, really excited. So we're gonna let them step off camera and mute themselves, and we're gonna go through all our different things. For those of you guys who've never experienced a one-page salon in the flesh, I'm so glad that you're experiencing it with us now. We did this last month, and it was a great experience, and I can't wait to do more of them. One of the things I love that we have discovered is in the midst of this pandemic, in the midst of new situations, is new ways to move forward. And when we find new ways to move forward, although it's hard and you don't want to sort of smile at silver linings all the time, but you do discover that there are ways to reach out to bigger places. So someone reached out to me and said, I've never been able to go to a one-page salon in person, but I was able to go online and experience it last month, and it was wonderful. And that is fantastic. So, very, very pleased to have that. So let's see. Let's go ahead and start out. Now, one of the usually things we do at One Page Salon, one of our traditions that we do is I read a page from someone who's not one of our writers, not one of the people who are going to be reading that night. And we've done everyone. I think it was Walt Whitman was last time, and all kinds of different writers through the years. But this time I was talking to one of the other folks who's been part of One Page Salon many times. He's a host. He is a poet. He is a voice that I really love, and a personality that I really love as well. And we were just talking about him writing. He's like, I'm finally writing, and I'm excited. And I was like, would you come and share some of your words tonight? And so please welcome by making snaps wherever you are. And I know you feel silly because you think they can't hear, but trust me, we can. We can hear your claps and snaps. I can feel it. Please put your fingers together for Joe Brundage. Oh, let's see. There's Joe. Oh, look at that. Let's go ahead and bring Joe up. Joe, are you there? Oh, maybe Joe had to run down to, he had mentioned. Oh, there he is, Joe. Great. Hey, Evan, is there a way now we could put Joe and I and take away? There we go. All right, great. Joe, so good to see you. It was good, reaching out to you and just sort of talking to you a little bit. How are you doing? How are you doing?
We live in interesting times right now. You have everything going on with the pandemic and what have you, and I think about my own personal situation and the things that weigh on you when you're confined. You know what I'm saying? As a writer, I'm sure all of us deal, as a creative period, I'm sure all of us deal with the whole analysis paralysis. And before me and you were speaking about that, I was thinking about my own personal issues, and at the same time, my middle child just graduated high school, and it was more sweet than bitter, those moments, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So
now it's like I have two adults and one more gray hair somewhere inside my beard. And, and then on top of that, everything going on with, I won't say unrest in this time of change that's going on, to where the human race is striving to become much more human than it ever has been. I'm to an extent, I'm loving what I'm seeing right now. I'm loving that people are speaking up. Mm-hmm. I believe that people without people aren't people. And what I love is that I'm seeing more of what I'd like to see in light of everything going on. And I love that. Yeah.
Well, Joe, I as you know, at One Page Salon, we always have like the 3 questions. So every writer, 3 questions. But before you read, so can I use the 3 questions? I'm gonna try them out. Are you okay with that?
Fire away.
Okay, all right. First one that I've got is what are you reading right now? You're totally right that it's strange times, and I'm just curious, like, what are the books that you're reaching for now?
Right now, actually, I won't even say don't judge me. I'm a nerd, and I don't feel bad about that. But I actually just got through reading my copy of The Fire Next Time by James Baldwin. And then after that, I jumped into Percy Jackson, The Olympians, The Lightning Thief.
Yeah.
A little known fact, this is going to be my 2nd year doing it, but I actually have taught poetry classes at Camp Half-Blood here in Austin.
Ah, that's great. Yeah. And my kiddo goes to Camp Half-Blood. That's so cool.
I love it. I got to teach. I taught right around the time back in, I think, 2017. I was right around the time the hurricane hit Houston. Mm-hmm. And it was a trying time because right after the sessions had ended, we went into that and I did volunteer work. But it was so beautiful watching these minds unravel and work for themselves and discover grow. And I would always tell them, you know, no holds barred when it comes to free writing, and, you know, watching them come back. Some of the things that would pop out of their heads would just, your mind, you just want to sit back and just, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it was beautiful. And this is my second year doing it. My good friend Topher Bradfield we're putting together a virtual camp. They put together a virtual camp, and they've asked me back on to teach poetry classes.
Really quickly, Joe, just so people know, like give a brief description of what Camp Half-Blood is, because it's such a wild thing. Yeah.
Well, it's a theme camp based on the Percy Jackson series, whereas where the series is about a boy named Percy Jackson who finds out that he knows he's different. He can't explain why, and sometimes it gets him into trouble. And he realizes that the reason he's different is that he's actually considered what's called a demigod or a half-blood, that he's part god, that he is one of the children of the gods of Mount Olympus. And he's chosen to go, he gets attacked, and he's chosen to go to Camp Half-Blood, which is a place where all the demigod children are kept safe, whether they stay for a few weeks or years at a time or what have you, and they learn to embrace their powers and basically come together and everything. And I was told about it, and I had seen the movie based on the Lightning Thief. But when I got there and saw how involved, it wasn't just the counselors and the counselors in training, but just seeing the children there.
Yes.
You know what I mean? When I saw children that were not just in costume, some of them were in costume, some of them were well in character as far as who they were as a demigod. But when you see a 7-year-old tell you specifically what their pronouns are.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And I would stick to the mythology as best I can, even though I'm not an actual character in the book. You know, every time I would slip, one of them would come and nudge me. Well, you know, Hephaestus really doesn't do that. I'll be like, okay, cool, okay, thank you. So yeah, I go in and I have like a few minutes at a time with each session. And you know, I'll have them do a quick free write, some word banks, and I advocate that they create whenever. You know what I mean? Because as a kid, much less as a demigod, there's always a lot going on in here and out there. So I always tell them, if you can't tell your mom, your dad, or that best friend or that cousin, if nobody's around, or you just can't tell them, tell it to the paper. Get it out of your head. Don't worry about how you say it, how you spell it. If you don't know, free spell. I love that word. I just found out about that word. And you just go and you let the kids be themselves. And after the first session last Friday, some of the counselors who remember me from last time, they came in and was like, you have no idea. They are still ranting about you. They're still raving about you. Yeah, yeah. They love it and they want you to come back. And I was like, yes.
That's so good. Okay. Moving on to the second question. Second question I got down is how has writing changed for you in 2020?
Like I said, you know, we live in interesting times on multiple levels. I've been going through a few personal things as well, and like I said, I've moved past the analysis paralysis, I find, by writing for myself first. No matter what gift you have, it's for you first, and then as soon as you master it, in other words, interpret yourself through that gift or help yourself find release through that gift, then you develop the ability to give it to others. And I had to go back to that. I had to go back to fundamentals. And now I'm in a place to where I'm writing a lot more often. There's a bit of a slam stigma because, you know, I used to do slam poetry. I say used to, but I might get in back every once in a while. It's not necessarily a young person's game. But, you know, I'm getting back into form, writing shorter poems. I'm dealing with a haiku addiction. I'm dealing with it, but, you know, I don't have a problem. I can quit anytime. That was more than 17 syllables. I'm sorry. But I am actually working on my new book and a new spoken word album as well. And one of the things I told myself is I'm not going to give myself a deadline, which is the best way to, unless you have like a deal or a contract or something, if you haven't developed that consistency that most of the writers out there have, you know what I'm saying? Like the full-fledged, I say full-fledged authors as you have a book, you've done the work and everything, but without that self-discipline, if you give yourself a deadline, you'll automatically shut down. So what I've started to do getting back into it is I tell myself I'm getting myself back into writing so much per day instead of just being a lightning bolt. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Sometimes you have to be more of a blacksmith than a lightning bolt.
Yeah.
If you're really about that work, if you're really on it, but there's that transition back to that, and that's what I'm finding. So I'm loving what I'm seeing happening. I'm not trying to create the next great work because I don't believe it exists. It's this and then whatever's out there next. So like I said, I'm looking to having the book done by fall at the least, and the album I'm going to take a little bit more time on.
Sweet. Okay, one last question, and then we're going to get to what you're reading. Tell me something good.
Something good. I would say I was doing a free write, and I was teaching a class, and I was sitting there, and I was doing the word bank, and I asked each of the kids to give me a word. And one of the kids was nervous when I pointed at him, "You, give me a word." And one of them jumped back and said, "Yes." And he was nervous. That's all he could say. Just yes. And somebody was like, "What? How do you spell? What do you?" And then another kid backing him up said, "He means like Beyonce, like yes, queen, yes." And he included it in his free write about a dragon about a princess that had to go rescue a knight that was trapped in a castle. And the knight and the princess and the dragon rode away with the dragon screaming yes as they flew off into the sunset.
That's great.
And it just tells me that, we live in a day and age to where, and it's been happening over the years on different levels. You've seen it every year. Something changes that you never thought would. Something is happening that you didn't think was possible to occur. And now more than ever in good and not so good ways, we're seeing change happen. That we've wanted, and there's so much back and forth about how it's happening and how it should happening, but it is taking place, and I feel good about that. I feel good about the world that my college graduate and my older college graduate are walking into, as well as my soon-to-be high school graduate. So
that's good. Yeah. Yes. All right, well, Joe. Hey, sorry.
I'm gonna try a little light because I don't know if y'all can really see me.
Yeah, that's great. I was gonna tell everyone out there in a Zoom world a couple of different things to help you out in watching. One of the things is if you're seeing a bunch of boxes that maybe just have someone's name and they're not on camera, you can always go to one of those boxes, and if you go to with your mouse, you go over with the cursor to the top right-hand corner where there's a ... the ellipsis. You can click on that, and then you can say not to see non-video participants, and they will sort of be taken off, and then it will just be the beautiful face of Joe in just a second. So that's kind of a cool way of doing it to watch as the night goes on. Joe, thank you so much for those answers. By the way, Joe's book, Element 615, is so damn good, and the spoken word album to go along with it is so beautiful.
I geeked out when I saw that. I was trying to be professional. Geeked out a little bit.
It's pretty cool, huh?
Yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, out there in the world, our first reader tonight just joining us to share something that I'm so excited about. I don't even know what it's going to be, but I'm so excited. Out there, I want you to be the Greek mythology, the chorus of those children that love Joe. But now, I want you to be the actual gods. I want all of you to clap and snap and make noises so much that those Greek myths come to life. And we've got horses flying and gods making the peacocks and all kinds of things. Ladies and gentlemen, Joe Brundage.
First of all, that was a huge intro for just the haiku. No, I'm just playing. I've got longer than a haiku. All right, so this is a as of yet untitled work that that's going to be in the book as well as on the album when I do record that. I'm right now the temporary title is Tribe, but I'm no more preface. I'm just going to go ahead and read. My closest friends are heathens, if not cryptids, aberrations, anomalies, oddities, true kaiju, Morlocks, situated away in detached, nonconformist, flower-top thorn factories that do not have to smile for you. Freaks with razor blade grins, unfettered from your fetishes, unbound and unwillingly tied to their freedom, ground-pounding, light-working, earth-bound seraphim, sin-soaked saints, past and beyond forgiveness, living only to atone, butterflies that glow in the dark because they had to find their way out somehow, things that the things go bump in the night have tea with, monsters with hearts big enough to hold a space for you, know exactly when you need a hug, but know to ask you first, folks hoping to get their soul back, souls that the devil won't touch with a 10-foot pole, folks that got nothing but soul left, pronoun resistant, self-identified, beast too classy to be classified, religiously disillusioned yet so spiritually devout that they carry the church inside them or carry their demons just to give them the God personally, keep crosses on their skin in case they forget God again, people who will love you like acid jazz and whiskey at 3:12 a.m. in the morning, cats that will not be cataloged or easily referenced, low-key masterminds, undeclared geniuses, some of the sapio-sexiest carbon-based life forms that I know, wise enough not to know shit, know not to think themselves better than you, absolute badasses, people who didn't see themselves until they became invisible, people who didn't find themselves until they were truly lost, folks that will love you so hard that your doubts suffocate, beings that don't talk to strangers because no one is stranger than them, they who were absent the day they taught the others how to be cool because they already knew, they who keep the day on its toes while keeping the nighttime tired and satiated, them who started living from their heart that the day they escape from their mind, soldiers born in the shit will toe the line for you, stand with you, if not carry you, warriors that will go to battle with you on any front, fighters born and died in the war, teachers that will let you spout every curse word but quit, human divining rods dowsing for the best in you, break bread with you because you have nothing if you cannot give. They who outlive the armchair prophecies become more than the labels levied only to make themselves my heroes when I tell you about my friends, my comrades, my tribe, my collective of individuals. Be advised, we are not the you are used to. Nothing like what your eyes may tell you. Believe whatever you heard about us. We give the myopic headaches when we come into view. We are not lost because we don't know who we are. We are lost to you because you no longer deserve us. Devoid of any explanation, you might feel that we owe you. My crew be so very motley, but this exquisite mess of outright outliers, this beautiful mosaic, this tumultuous tapestry of peoples from separate paths that I choose to move parallel with. We are the blossom that drifted from wherever, bound by holding to each other no matter where the tide takes us, and I don't know where they came from. I know not how they found me, but I would not trade them. Not a one. Thank you.
That was beautiful. Thank you so much, Joe.
Thank y'all very much.
I really appreciate it. Joe Brundage, ladies and gentlemen. Wow. Okay, so one of the things we do at the One Page Salon is we get a little teary-eyed, and we name every One Page Salon. I take a phrase. I just sort of pick out a phrase from each different reader, and then at the end of the night, we'll choose one to sort of be the name. And so for Joe, there were so many. I kept on writing different things down, but I think one of the possible names, something I just sort of loved, was This Exquisite Mess as a possible title for the June 6, 2020. That was great, Joe. Stick around, Joe. We've got some great people to listen to coming up next.
Look forward to it.
Yeah, and
I think that might be what I call the poem.
Yeah.
This Exquisite Mess. Yeah. Thank you for that. Yeah.
Sure. Good. So I get a co-writing credit there. Do I?
At the least a shout out. You know what I'm saying? At the least. You know what I'm saying? You'll make the book cover with me. Is what it is.
Oh, well, that's all I wanted. That's cool enough. Okay. Well, our next reader is the fellow I was telling you about, all the way from San Francisco. I should probably let Evan know a little bit ahead of time who maybe he already knows. Oh, let's see if Evan can guess who is going to be our next reader. I'll give you a hint, Evan. It rhymes with Limnauer. Anyway, our next reader tonight is, oh, you got it. He is a playwright. He's done fantastic stuff. Like I mentioned, he just got back from San Francisco where he did all kinds of cool things. As mentioned, the immersive extravaganza, like a play that you walked among called the Speakeasy. Some of his plays like Zombie Town and Exit Wounds, Secret Rules of the World, Go to Camp are being played all over. I know him from years back because he and I did improv comedy back in Austin, Texas, when there was still a 19 at the beginning of every year. And he's just one of my favorite people in the world for how he writes, how he lives, and how he loves people around him. Please snap and clap and annoy the people in your house by making noise for Tim Bauer.
Hi, Owen.
Hi, Tim. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very good.
Excellent.
So you got back to Texas, and then we shut down
Yes,
the world.
it's been a year.
Yeah.
Can you believe it's been a year? That's
It's been a
crazy.
year since you've been
Yeah.
back. Yeah.
I know.
I mean, it feels like it's been a year since, last week. So,
Exactly. That's very true.
yeah. Well, thanks for doing this, Tim.
Yeah,
I really
sorry.
appreciate it. And you ready to jump into these 3 questions?
Yeah, sure. Go for it.
Okay. All right. First question, Tim. What are you reading right now?
Well, I brought a prop. I am this far into East of Eden, John Steinbeck. I wanted to read something huge while we're in a pandemic, so I picked a 600-page book off the shelf.
Is it good?
So this part is. Yeah. So far, I only read a little bit of Steinbeck back when I was in high school, and then I just thought it'd be kind of fun to get something big and something kind of Depression era. So it starts off with a World War I and a pandemic, and goes through a depression, as far as I can tell. So it should be interesting. It should
Wow.
be timely.
Do you know that Steinbeck and Joseph Campbell were friends?
I did not know that. Really.
Yeah, when Joseph Campbell, before he wrote his books on mythology and Hero of the Thousand Places, he kind of just went traveling around, and he kind of ran into Steinbeck when Steinbeck was like just trying to be a novelist for the first time. Yeah, in fact, I think Joseph Campbell kind of has a cameo under a different name on Canterbury Row, I think. So isn't that weird?
I had no idea. That's cool.
Yeah, that was pretty surprised. Okay, next question for you.
Yeah.
How has writing changed in 2020?
Yeah, well, I find, particularly in the last couple of months, my attention span is very short. Like when I read, I sort of read a chapter, and then I find myself picking up my phone and checking to see what's been in the headlines like every 20 minutes. So I find everything I've been writing lately has been short stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm not trying to write like a really long play and just writing little short things here and there. Or I'm editing old stuff. So I've got, like you mentioned that Zombie Town play. It's a play I had that has, it was a cast of 5 actors, but they play like probably 30 characters. And I'm doing an adaptation of that for high schools and colleges because they always want more actors. So I'm figuring out a way to make that be where you can have like 15 or 20 people play all these different characters and make that work. So it's easier. It's a little easier to edit. It's a little easier to write short. It's a little harder to kind of keep a big piece in my brain right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know that makes a lot of sense. I'm having that same issue. Like focusing writing is hard. It's just hard. Yeah. Last question then. Tell me something good. I mean, I'll tell you why I asked this, because it's a weird question to ask, but I'm just like, I know there are things to be so grateful for now, and even within the hard stuff, and some of the stuff Joe was mentioning about that too, of like these things that we're going through that hopefully are, pains of moving into a better place. But I'm just looking for something. Like I'm looking for good. So tell me something good.
Yeah, well, something that the first thing that popped in my head when I heard you say that was, and because you had mentioned that we had moved back recently, and then suddenly, one of the things we were looking forward to was sort of having our house be kind of, gathering place of old friends and having people over and all that kind of stuff again. And all this kind of hit, and people have been sort of quarantining. But we just happened to have a friend of ours in town right before that, who came to stay with us, and then, you know, suddenly can't travel. So we ended up with a roommate. And then my wife volunteers at the Austin Animal Center, and they were looking for people to foster cats because they you know, suddenly can't adopt them. So they had cats they had to go everywhere. So we had 2 extra cats. And then we got a little bit of, we have got some furniture off of Facebook Marketplace and been setting up out in the backyard and stuff. And so we've been having like friends over and stuff a little bit here and there, social distance. So just the fact that it's able to still kind of have a little bit of like trying to still have community, even though we're all quarantined, has been kind of nice. I thought that's been kind of an upside.
That feels, yeah. What are the names of the 2 cats?
Woodrow and Kabuki. Kabuki because he looks like a kabuki mask, and Woodrow, I don't know. I think he's got sort of a funny face. I think they're both older cats, so the Woodrow came to us already pre-named. I guess probably he's got kind of looks like a little man, so I guess that's where they got the Woodrow name from.
Woodrow's a great cat name.
Oh, well, that's a great name for him. Yeah, and he's a pretty funny little guy.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what are you gonna read to us tonight, Tim?
Yeah. So I pulled together a little thing. I've got this little. I don't know precisely what it's going to be. It's going to be from a play, just a little monologue from a play, and it'll probably end up being a short piece. It's sort of. I had played around with this sort of character in something earlier, so I thought I would kind of bring him back and see where it goes. Just a little page of that, and in it, it's a. If you can picture like a little piano bar kind of place where there's like a guy playing a piano, and then in a hotel maybe, and you know, then there's just the guy kind of sitting there with about a prop, little glass of whiskey, kind of sitting there chatting with the piano player as the piano player plays tunes, and that's kind of what that's going to be.
Okay, I often picture that, so that sounds perfect.
Exactly.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, out there in the virtual and real world, I want you to all purr. Purr as if you are the cats of the world that Tim has welcomed into his home, just embracing you. Cats, come to me. Come to me, all cats needing safety and harbor, purring for Tim Bauer.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. All right, so picture this sort of, I guess he's a businessman sort of guy, and he's looking and he says, "Play it again, my friend. I know, you don't take requests. And yet you have a jar. There's an implication in that. Put in $1 and get a song. You're a human jukebox, my friend. But where else am I supposed to go? Guy wants a little human contact after being in a crowded room all day. And I like your music. There's no words. I like that. I'm sick of hearing all the blah, blah, blah. I need some skitty ba ba ba. Oh, that's a good one. That is a good song. This is what I would have asked for anyway, so you should have let me make a request. You'd be $1 richer. Because I'm no freeloader. I always contribute. I'm a paying customer. I'm a frequent flyer. I'm in the Platinum Club. And at the end of the day, when I'm gone and you have money, who do you think puts it in your jar? Considering I'm the only person who ever comes to this crap bar. And don't say I can't insult your crappy bar, because I'm a road warrior. I've been to enough hotels to know you can slap a few bookshelves up and truck out some round tables and it still ain't no Algonquin. It's a corporate room in a corporate building run by a corporation who probably tried to hire my firm to redesign their logo, but we turned them down because they have no style, no flair, no authenticity, no heart. You gotta have heart, the lady's saying. Miles and miles and miles of heart. When you got no heart, you see things wrong. Case in point. Last week, you wondered where I was? I was in what's it called? With the mountains, Rocky Mountain spring water. I'm with this guy, this kid, this chief operating officer. Knows nothing about operations, but they want to appeal to millennials, so he's chief operating officer. And we're walking, and it starts raining. And he says to me, "It's hailing." You see? Hailing hits you on the head, hard. So really it's raining. You understand what I'm saying? You can't find hail when there's only rain. And in this crappy, soulless waste of a hotel, I can find nothing good. This is a good one. This is Bill Evans. This is a classic. You can't fool me. You gotta get up early in the morning to fool me. You gotta set your clock 2 hours ahead, take your shower the night before, have all your clothes arranged, and even then you'll find I switched your socks. You'll have black socks with brown shoes, and this, my friend, is no good. This is something you understand, because if you don't mind my saying, you always look good. And I understand it's a uniform, but it's more than a uniform, it's a tuxedo. And I understand they make you wear it, but some men, it would be wearing them. This is my point. The Segway, Miles Davis, a classic, an original. Well, let me tell you something. Originality is overrated. We don't want original. We want tried and true. Case in point, when a woman dies quickly, out of the blue, we say, at least she didn't suffer. When a woman dies slowly, wastes away, we say, at least she got to say goodbye. You see, we don't want original. We want to blather just to hear ourselves talk. They can't both be true, so nothing's true. That's what a cynic would say. But I say in every situation, find the good and amplify it. And that's what I do. I see the good and I reflect it back. I am a mirror with eyes. Thank you.
Oh man, that was great, Tim. I think I've met that guy. I am a mirror with eyes. Jeez, that was great. Man, so so many good ones as far as what to name it. I don't know. Maybe it's gonna be Skibby Ba Ba Ba, or ain't no Algonquin. I really like that. But mirror with eyes is pretty good too.
Yeah, maybe.
What do you think, Tim? What should you put in as a possible title for tonight?
I guess if I was going to name the piece, I would probably call it A Mirror with Eyes, maybe. So yeah, maybe that.
Okay, well, possible title then for tonight. We'll say Mirror with Eyes. All right, I'll put that Mirror with Eyes as a possible thing. Well, that's so cool, and that is part of a play that's not yet done. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, something I'm working on. It's a character I had in a different little thing I had worked on once before. I wasn't quite sure what to do with them, so I'm just kind of experimenting with what could happen with it. So
That's super
We'll
cool.
see.
Well, thanks so much, Tim. Give my love to the cats.
all right, absolutely.
All right, guys, let's move on to our next writer. I'm really excited to have her on. Let's see. I wonder if Evan knows. I really thought I should have told Evan the order. That would have been a really good thing to do, but I didn't. So our next writer, it rhymes with Lennifer Kritz. Let's see what happens there. Oh my goodness, that's right. Jennifer Ritz. She is a novelist here in Austin, Texas. She wrote The Crossing and I Too Have Suffered in the Garden. She's an award-winning novelist and also she's a brilliant, as well as a writer, she's a writer that also inspires, which I find so wonderful. My daughter has been a part of her writers group now for, gosh, I'm not even sure, it's 2 years or so, and is just thrilled every Thursday. It is something that's been very exciting for her before all this pandemic, and then I think during it has been just some of the biggest smiles that she's had over the last few months. And I so appreciate that, and the way that she's been inspired not just to write, not just to type, but to think and talk and share their passion with these other young writers. And Jennifer is a big reason that is happening. So ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together in some funny way for Jennifer Ritz. Hi, Jennifer.
Hi there.
How are you?
I'm great. Happy to be here.
Good. Yeah, I'm happy that you're here too. Have you adopted cats, Jennifer? I know you have a dog.
I have a dog. I have an ancient beagle that she smells quite a bit.
Is she there in the room with you?
Snoring under my desk as we speak. Yes.
Aw,
Yeah.
how sweet. Where are you ready for your 3 questions?
I absolutely am.
Okay. So Jennifer, first, what are you reading right now?
I'm actually reading Sandaria's book, The Mourner's Bed. Yeah. And I'm really enjoying the narrator's voice. It's a young girl in the early 60s. And I have a PhD in literature, and one of my specializations was 20th century African American literature. So I've read a lot, but this is really different. There's a really interesting perspective here about communities that didn't necessarily want to integrate, Black communities that didn't necessarily want to integrate. And I'm really appreciating that perspective. And it's not something that I've seen before. I'm really enjoying it.
That's cool. Do you guys know each other?
No.
Oh, really?
No.
Oh, it's so fun. Well, she'll be reading later. That's so great. Okay, great. Next question. How's writing changed with all of this in 2020?
You know, so I write really heavy books, and I always say that it's such a contrast to my sparkly self that I really am interested in betrayal and psychological trauma and memory and repression. And so my books really reflect those themes. And I have to tell you, you know, my fourth novel, which is about 100 pages in, it's just a really dark novel, the darkest of all of them so far. And that's saying quite a bit. And so I've really found myself in a place with everything that's going on where it's been difficult I'm already in a place of grief so much of the time. So it's been difficult to spend my writing time in that place as well. And instead, I think what I've really been trying to do is connect with my characters any way I can. So I have a whole fictional world, and each novel that I've written, including the one I'm going to read from tonight and another one that I'm writing, each novel takes place in the same fictional world. And each novel is told from a different character's perspective. And so I've been with these characters for decades now at this point. And so in order to get in touch with them, I'm doing whatever I can. So for example, there's this guy I went to college with, Kevin McKinney, and he's a musician here in Austin. And every Friday night he's been, on Facebook Live doing a concert, and his music resonates so much with me, and it always reminds me of my characters. And yeah, so sometimes I tap into that music, and that helps me connect.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're saying, so you've got all these different worlds that you're just jumping each chapter is a different.
No. Well, in a manner of speaking, yes. So I have 3 novels. My 3rd novel is coming out in September.
Yeah.
And then I'm writing a 4th, and each of those novels surround the same. They're all taking.
I see.
Yes. And then in my 3rd novel, I have 2 different narrators.
I see.
Yeah.
Wow. Gosh. That's a beautiful way when you're finding that the writing is hard for these kind of different reasons to have, the empathy to kind of go, let me connect with my characters. That's really beautiful use of that time.
It is beautiful, and they've been with me for so long, and I have so much love for them. So it's important for me to connect with them.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. My next question, tell me something good, which I realize is not a question, actually. Now I realize grammatically it's not a question. Tell me something good.
Well, Owen, you've kind of already mentioned it in the sense that I teach these writing workshops for girls, and I do have one non-binary student and one boy, but I have like almost 30 students who come to me. I have 5 or 6 workshops a week. I've been doing this for 6 years. And normally they come to my living room here and they sit around. I feel like I'm throwing a little party every time I'm getting ready for a workshop, and I make tea and they come and we talk about what's going on in their lives, and then they write and share, and it's just this magical space. And I wasn't sure that when we went to this quarantine state that magic would translate to Zoom, but I've been really pleasantly surprised. And I'm pretty solitary, and I really look forward to the time with those girls in the evenings. And I have to say that whenever anything everything feels so dark and heavy right now, so much of the time. And I get in those little workshops and I talk to the girls, and they're so bright and thoughtful and articulate and kind. And I think, it's actually going to be okay. Like everything's going to be okay, because this is our future. Real.
That's good.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, you're going to read to us something from the 4th book. What are you going to read to us from the 3rd book?
3rd book is not published yet. It's coming out in September, which is super exciting. And let's see, a little bit of background. Well, first, let me kind of minimize you here because I've got to pull it up. But so a little bit of background for y'all. It's February of 2009, and this one page is told from Joel's perspective, and he's kind of at the crux of this entire fictional world. And he is almost 37 years old. He's on a plane with James, who is his college roommate, best friend, and they are flying from Houston, where they've just attended Joel's father's funeral, to Chicago, where James lives with his small son. And Joel's not in a good place. His father has just died, but also he and James, since they met in 1990, have circled each other in all kinds of dysfunctional ways, which is wonderful to write about. And one more thing, when Joel left Buenos Aires, where he lives and works as an artist, to fly to Houston, as his father lay dying, he believed that he saw demons surrounding his father's bed. And once his father died, he thinks that one of the demons has stuck around and is now following him around. So that shows overwrought mind. So that's what so y'all give me one little, hang on one second.
Well, I'll tell you what, where you're getting that up, I'll get them making all the kind of noises. Ladies and gentlemen, out there, wherever you are, I want you to become the demons of hell itself right now. I want you to rise up from the fiery pits of hell beneath us, boiling at our feet. Make those demon noises in the chat, and welcome in a chorus of howls, Jennifer Ritz.
Thank you so much. All right, give me 3 seconds to get into Joel's brain here. The demon's my new best friend. Rode in the back seat on our way to pick up Henry from the hotel where he was staying with James's parents, then curled up at my feet as I tried to sleep on the way to the airport. On the plane, the demon slinks up and down the aisle, drops to its haunches, and crawls under the seats until it pops up beside me with an obstreperous grin. I try ignoring it. At first, it's amused. It thinks we're playing a game, and it gets in my face, tries to make me react. When I close my eyes, it clamps its claw on my thigh. I jerk upright, my leg burning from its touch. You all right? James asks beside me, and I jump to my feet without answering. I make my way to the back of the plane, looking over my shoulder for the demon who skips along behind me like a childhood bully. I can smell it from here. How can no one else? Locking myself in the bathroom, I close the lid on the toilet seat and sit with my head in my hands. The demon tried to cram itself in here with me, but I scooted in so fast I slammed the door on one of its hooves. Its shriek shook the plane, but I managed to get the door closed and locked. It's angry. I can hear its quick breath on the other side of the door. I could have gone right from my father's funeral to Buenos Aires. I could have told James I needed time to recover, needed space. But I'm James's demon. From year to year, I follow him, even when I know better, even though he hurts me. I need him, or maybe I just need him to want me. Now, finally, he might be in a place where he's willing to take a risk. Not enough of one, probably. That's something I have to remember, because the past few days, he's been James the way I always wanted. Patient and attentive, without the possessive bullshit I always mistook for interest. Instead, he's looking at me in a way that once upon a time I could barely imagine. I'm afraid to let myself believe he can follow through. Thank you.
Oh, sorry, I was on mute for a second. Wow, Jennifer, that was great. Goodness gracious. There was like quite a bit of demon stuff there.
I like the demon scenes. They're fun.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited for this novel. And you said that this book's coming out when?
September.
September. Okay. Well, I'm very excited to be reading that one. I'm a big fan of demons, and that was good. That was beautiful. I was like writing down different phrases, and then I wrote down one that was kind of like a phrase in the middle. I wonder what you think about it. Of like, need him to want.
Yes.
Just need him to want as like as a possible title. for tonight. Well, ladies and gentlemen, give it up once again for Jennifer Ritz. Thank you, Jennifer. Jennifer, people are saying that some people got a little scared. They got a little scared.
I'm all right with that.
Okay, good. Great. Well, let's go ahead and introduce our next reader tonight. Our next reader is going to be Bill Cotter. And I'm very excited to have Bill here. Bill is such a damn fine writer. He wrote Fever Chart and The Parallel Apartments, both put out by McSweeney's Press. And then a middle grade adventure novel, St. Philomene's Infirmary. And there's going to be a sequel coming out as well, which is very, very cool. I love his stuff. And I love his personality. I'm really excited to hear him read tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, make a lot of hand noise or guttural sounds, whatever feels good for Bill Cotter. Hey, Bill.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Good. How are you? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Good. Can hear you pretty well. You sound and look fantastic.
Well, thank you, Owen. Likewise. How's it going?
It's warm. The shed is it's not cooled down.
100 now.
I stopped looking. Once it gets into the 3 digits.
Right.
I just stopped looking. But it's the thing is, it's warm already. But then because of the mosquitoes, I have to light like the citronella candle. So now I'm just like, it's really warm. It's
I hear you.
Yeah. It's Lord of the Flies inside here. I'm the last one standing.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Well, thanks for being here, Bill. I'm a fan, and I know.
Likewise.
We were on that panel together at the San Antonio Book Festival, I think it was.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that was some years ago. But I'm really excited. So, but let me go through the questions. I'm going to be really curious to find out what you're going to be reading tonight, because the idea that you write, the Fever Chart and then middle grade adventure novels. That's a pretty big spectrum. That's
yeah.
I appreciate that. So
the middle grade thing was I wrote it for my nephews, for my 4 nephews. It just I had for a long time. I said, okay, I got to get this out while they're at the right age to read it, and hammered it out, and that was a lot of fun to write. I love that. Very satisfying to write that one.
Oh, that is great. One of my good friends, Sean Petrie, is a middle grade writer. And I see him every so often he runs by our house during this whole lockdown and everything. And he stops on the sidewalk, and I give him a beer or whiskey, which is an awful thing to have while running. But he's been writing these middle grade books and he's had some deadlines in the midst of everything that's been going on, a pandemic and everything else. And he's been saying it's been super fun for him. I think it is.
Sure.
Yeah. Like Jennifer was saying, it's because it's not dark and scary. It's like a good escape into something that's a little more uplifting, I think is what he's saying.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So question, what are you reading right now, Bill?
Okay, I'm embarrassed to admit I'm not reading anything. I'm reading books for work, I guess. I have workbooks I have to read, but I find that if I'm reading something, if I'm reading fiction when I'm writing, and I'm doing a little writing right now, I tend to take on the personality and the style of the person I'm reading, and I lose my sense of what I'm supposed to be writing. So I stay away from fiction when I'm writing, and but still have plenty of workbooks to read anyway.
What are the workbooks?
My regular day job is a bookseller, so I tend to read some of the books that I'm writing up, that I'm trying to offer for sale. Like
nonfiction?
Nonfiction stuff, yeah. And I'm reading a weird thing right now, or looking at a weird thing. It's hard to read. It was a book written. I deal in early printed books, and this is a book about a guy who's arguing that the Immaculate Conception was not so immaculate. And it was published in 1497, I think. It's not dated. And I actually have it to show you if you're interested in seeing it. And I don't know if you can see this or not, but that's the title page of it.
Oh my gosh.
And it's really kind of an interesting book, because he's a French humanist, this guy named Robert Gauguin, who's arguing for legal reasons that it might not have been immaculate, because so much of medieval and Renaissance law is based on something happening, something actually, a consummation, in order for inheritance law and that sort of thing. So he got into a lot of trouble for this book.
Wow. And how old, the book that you just showed us, the copy, how old is that?
About 1497, I think.
That copy is actually.
This copy, yeah.
Bill, you just pulled a great bait and switch, because you started out with like, I'm so embarrassed, I'm not reading anything. Oh, except for this 1497
Yes.
book about the Immaculate Conception.
Well, I'm not really reading it because I can't read Latin very well, not easily. So I'm studying the book, not really reading it.
That counts. That's
It
like
counts.
me.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
That's like me in Infinite Jest.
Right. I hear you.
Well, how about this then? Since you're writing right now, the second question, how has writing changed in the midst of everything that's been going on in 2020?
Well, it's hard not to think about everything that's going on right now when you're writing. Anything that you're writing right now that's at least contemporary, it's going to come, if it's going to be published, it'll come out in a year and a half or so. How can you you have to pay attention, it has to be included in some way, one way or another, a little bit like 9/11 was. Anything that came out just after 9/11, how could you ignore what was going on? Mm-hmm. So your options are to either set your book set beforehand, before February of 2020, have it set in the future maybe and refer back to it, or have it, but you can't write it as a contemporary book without acknowledging everything that's going on right now.
Yeah.
Pandemic, Black Lives Matter, the revolution, everything that's happening right now. There's just no way to ignore it. So that's what I'm thinking about. I'm working on a couple of books, and they're set now, and I'm struggling with how to work this in, and so that's what I'm thinking about in terms of writing.
That makes so much sense, and in so many ways, I'm finding that some of the stuff that I was writing, in February of this year or January, I hope that things that happen, it's going to be dated, terribly dated, not because of the pandemic, but because of the protests and the revolution and Black Lives Matter, that we're going to be like, oh, the world changed in a big way towards getting better, and let's hope our fiction's dated. Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
Tell me this. The next question. Tell me something good.
Everything is good right now. I think the revolution is good. It's important, and it is a revolution. I don't think there's another word for it. That's what's good. Yeah,
I appreciate that. Last question.
Yes.
1497 book. I've got $11. If I could send you $11, would I get to bid on the book? Is that pretty good?
Yeah, sure. That's fine. That'll work.
Oh, great. Cool.
Absolutely. Send me $11.
And you'll send me the book, you promise?
Absolutely. Yes. I'm tired of this book.
You could just take it at half price,
I could. I really could.
Yeah, they might give you some credit.
Maybe $5.50.
Yeah. All right. What are you going to read to us, Bill?
Okay. I'm going to read. This is a novel from a page from a work in progress. Something I've been working on for a couple of years. I had submitted it and got an R&R, a revise and resubmit from a publisher, and so working on that, trying to do that now. And so the book is basically it's a story about a Texas family, Central Texas family, who suffer a tragedy, and years later, on the brink of dissolution, this family has a chance at redemption, a major chance at redemption. And the narrative is about each one of the family members feels a different level of responsibility for the tragedy that befell them earlier on, and so each of them has a different idea about what this chance at redemption means, and they might be reading it all wrong, and that's what the story is about. The working title is The Misery Ticket, and this is a page from, I'm sorry, I have an actual page here. This is a page from the beginning of chapter 2.
Okay, fantastic. So ladies and gentlemen, if you're out there, I want you to imagine that the starry skies have been hidden by clouds. The clouds are parting away, and all of us, we are starlight shining down, glowing with energy and vibrations, and every one of our vibrations spell out, Bill Cotter, Bill Cotter, Bill Cotter.
Thank you, Owen. Okay, Angie peered out of the valance curtains over the sink in the kitchen of their little house and spied Dean Lee sitting in the front yard in an old lawn chair. It was the collapsible sort, whose seat and back are made of broad strips of synthetic material loosely woven together and riveted to an aluminum frame. The everlasting kind, found folded up and leaning against garage walls all over the country, waiting for the 4th or Labor Day to be hauled out and scattered on driveways and patios, ready to be stretched open like mouths and fed the day's celebrants. Dean Lee's chair remained outside year after year, colors bleached out, nylon brittle, metal corroded with the whitish frost of aluminum oxide, seemingly daring its owner to outlive it. Dean Lee's back was to his wife. It seemed to be his regular disposition. Angie felt she only ever saw the double-arced piping of his Western shirts, his muddy black ducktail, the wrinkled sunburn on his neck beneath it. Angie let the valance fall. She stared down into the dirty dishwater. She took the lottery ticket out of the watch pocket of her jeans and held it over the sink. She loosened her grip so that mere friction kept the ticket from fluttering into the tepid water. Outside, Dean Lee sneezed. Then again. The man suffered from terrific cedar fever, the scourge of Central Texas. Angie found a couple allergy tablets and a can of Pearl beer and went outside. Here, Dean Lee, she said, coming up behind him. He reached for the pills and the beer. It was one of the minor human kindnesses that blossomed like tiny ferns in the cracks of the concrete slab of their pending divorce. You got your phone on you, said Angie. Dean Lee looked up at her. Yeah, he said. Why? Angie studied the face staring up at her, wondering exactly what had happened to the man she married, where he had gone. He looked more or less the same, a mix of Scott Glenn and a sun-baked brick, but something had been subtracted from him. Or maybe a thing had been added, a smothering agent. In any case, there was some ineffable shift, not one that kept her up at night, but one that nagged at her when she pulled the tabs on his beers, or peeled the foil back on his allergy tablets, or poured ice cubes in the baby pool. I want you to look something up for me, said Angie. Yeah, what? March 29th, Mega Millions. Why? Just humor me. What, did you win or something? Oh, sure, I won the lottery. Just do it, Dean Lee. With a great sigh, he put his can of beer down in the dirt and dug his phone out of some recess in his coveralls. He found the number and showed it to her. Angie took the lottery ticket out of her pocket and handed it to her husband without a word. Dean Lee studied it for 2 solid minutes. Angie tried to crack her knuckles, but they'd been recently cracked. So instead, she counted the teeth in her head that she was going to get fixed when the money came rolling in. That's all I got.
That's a great, oh, hang on, let me get on the video. That's a great way to end it with, that's all I got. That is great, Bill. I love that.
Thank you.
That's fantastic. Oh man, I'm really excited to be reading that one. That was a great page overall too. And you gave me some great possibilities. I was like, what? Oh my God, there's some good stuff there. You can see that people are snapping and clapping in the chat room.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you.
Yes, there's a lot of different love there. And I was thinking about all the different lines, but I was thinking like, well, one that really got me, mere friction was a great line, but I think the scourge of Central Texas.
Yeah, that's right.
I think the scourge of Central Texas was like, oh yeah.
We know what we're talking about here. Yes.
Well, thank you, Bill, so much.
Thank you, Owen. I appreciate it.
Thank you for being here. Okay, I think it is time for our next reader. I hope you guys are having a good time out there, by the way. Let me just take a quick moment to once again say a huge thank you to everyone out there. A huge thank you to the Writers League of Texas. The Writers League of Texas is doing so much for so many people before the pandemic and now, and also moving forward. They're just a great resource for writers at any stage in their career. For people who are just getting started, who are excited but don't know how to tell their story. They're a great resource for people who have been telling their stories time and time again, but are looking for new ways and new exciting angles. And overall, they're also just a great community. They are a gathering of like-minded souls who are challenging one another and inspiring one another and encouraging one another. And we definitely need all that. We need encouragement right now. We definitely need challenges, and we definitely need more stories by more voices. And I'm very grateful for the Writers League of Texas for being behind that kind of movement. And let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and get into our next reader. Next reader is John Pipkin. He is a hell of a guy. He's read at One Page Salon before. He's a director of the undergraduate creative writing program at UT. His books, well, I've got them right here. The Blind Astronomer's Daughter and The Woods Burner. So damn good. And they're the kind of books that I got to get in hardback because I just like to touch them a lot. You know, they're that kind of book. Would you please make a noise with your cheeks, like a brah, 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 for John Pipkin. Hi, John.
Hi, Owen.
How are you?
Good.
John,
I'm still just laughing at the image of you touching my books.
I do.
Like,
I mean, they both got like, you know, I like books a lot. I mean, my wife can tell you that I snuggle with books. I like to hold books. I feel safer with books.
I feel like I'm gonna wake up in the middle of the night now and go, oh, Owen is touching one of my books.
You'll feel it. Yes, you will. And they have texture. These books have texture, you know, like.
Well, you know, right here, I'm reaching back to my fake bookshelves. I was touching one of yours as well.
Well, look at that. Yes, I appreciate that. I appreciate it. Oh, wow.
There's a whole Egerton genre right here.
What happened is you saw at the beginning that I had your books back there and you were like, honey, call Amazon. Order some books.
And then the drones came in. Yeah.
It's actually the reason I do like books so much. I would never be able to do Bill's job of handle like books of delicacy. I touch books too much, and then I roll over on them, and I keep them out in the shed. If I had a book from 1497, I'm sure I would ruin it for everybody. I'm not going to do that. John, you look so good. By the way, you do have a really good background there. I'm impressed. I'm impressed with your study. Tell me.
I took off my tie so people could tell us apart.
Oh, good. I took off my pants, so we've both lost something. What are you reading, right? Well, first, what are you drinking?
I have an old fashioned.
Well, is it really that time of night? Well, okay. Hate to see a novelist drink alone. Oh, that's gonna go well with the overheated shed. This is wise.
It adds extra fermentation.
Yeah. So what are you reading these days, John?
You know, I'm actually reading something that is in a genre I've never read in before. It's completely different from what I usually read. I'm reading an enormous graphic novel called Berlin by Jason Lutz. It's amazing. It's about the Weimar Republic and the fighting between the socialists and the communists and the National Socialists, all before the rise of the Nazi Party. And yeah. I actually stumbled upon this at the Texas Book Festival 2 years ago. Wow. Jason Lutz was on a panel, and the most amazing thing maybe about the whole book is the way he signed every book, where you struggle to figure out what to say. He drew this in about 30 seconds.
Oh my gosh!
What? For every single person who came to have a book signed, like picked one of the characters from the book and did a quick sketch and then signed it. And the artwork in here is just amazing. It's all sort of black and white, but also very intelligent and heavily historically researched. So it seemed like I was having some trouble concentrating on reading narrative prose under this situation, and so switching genres and moving into something like graphic novel has been an interesting exploration.
That's really cool. I appreciate it.
And it's big.
It is. It's got a heft. That is definitely a cuddly book. You could cuddle with that book for like a year. I have to apologize to some of the people in the chat room, including like Stacy Swan, who was like, sorry, I said Amazon. I did, of course, mean bookshop.org or Bookwoman or Book People is what I meant. I said Amazon, and I'm willing to admit that. I'm sorry about that. So, yeah, and I do mean that, by the way.
It was ironic.
Yeah, I was being ironic, yes. There are great places for you. It is a very cool opportunity right now if you want to get a book, like the cool books that have been recommended, which almost all of which you can get, except the one Bill Cotter's reading. I think it's the only one you probably can't find right now available. To to go to these cool bookstores that are out there. So many great bookstores that are struggling right now, and you can be doing a good deed for somebody else. It's a charity, or it's not, and then you're also get a badass book. So I do recommend that you're going out there and finding those stores. If you see a town that has been particularly hit by police violence, and you want to sort of get in there and sort of see how you can help the people of that community, go ahead and find a bookstore, an independent bookstore there, and they'll mail something to you. It's a great way of reaching out, and it's just a win-win-win, because you win because you get to read, the bookstore wins because they get to stay afloat, and everyone wins because there's more knowledge and stories in the world. All right, next, and yes, it's true, Bookwoman does have some great puzzles as well. I'm not in hot water, okay? I'm not. This is the Owen scandal. John, next question. How has writing changed for you in the midst of all this?
You know, I think it's changed in a couple of ways. I mean, I think there's always been that struggle to try to shut out the world and bury yourself in your work, and then the world is always sort of intruding around the edges while you're trying to focus on what you're writing. But now that feels more like a retreat. Like the world of writing is and I don't mean retreat as in like military retreat, but retreat as in a kind of, you know, spiritual retreat where the writing has become a space to really, you know, move out of the world for a while and inhabit this other space where you can, you know, explore ideas and think about the world and the life and the way you might like it to be. And I find myself coming out of sessions of writing almost feeling disoriented because I've been in this other world for a while that has been, in a way, getting away from everything that's happening with the pandemic and the riots that are going on. So, or not riots, but the protests and all of the unrest that we're experiencing. So, yeah, it's had that effect, and also I feel like it, given what's been happening after George Floyd's murder and the protests that we've seen, it's really caused me to take a harder look at how I'm addressing issues or representing issues of race in my own writing, even when what I'm writing about is not in some way directly connected to issues of race, and thinking about that kind of discomfort that some of us may feel in talking about those issues, and trying to figure out ways I'm intersecting with those, but not paying as much attention to them as I should be in my work.
Yeah, you know, John, you write. It's interesting. You know, Bill was saying, how can we write right now without sort of in some way being impacted by the turning points that we're seeing in our history. You write about the past. You're a historical novelist, and the novel that you're working on now is also about the past. So are you finding that is that partially why it's a retreat, or are you finding like, oh, I'm letting what's happening now influence some of how I'm thinking about how I write about the past?
I think it's that second point. And in fact, you know, what I'm writing about right now is the Tour de France during World War II, and a fake Tour de France that the Nazis staged in 1942, which is actually true. They'd actually, you know, put on this sort of fake version of the Tour de France in 42 to try to appease the French people and show them that occupation's not so bad if you have bicycle racing. And so in thinking about that, I started looking, something I hadn't done before is really taking a hard look at the history of the Tour de France, not to be, you know, to have a political agenda or to be critical, but just to take an honest, factual look at the history of the tour. And the facts are there is hardly a whiter sport out there in the world. The first Black cyclist to participate in the tour was from the Caribbean and participated in the year 2014. And the Tour de France started in 1903.
Wow.
And the first Black riders from Africa and the first African team competed in 2016.
Wow, I did not know that.
The first Asian rider participated from Japan in 1926, but didn't finish. And then the first Chinese writer to participate and actually finish, that didn't happen until 2011.
Jeez, yeah, wow.
But these are just things that, you know, you don't really think about because they might feel uncomfortable to think about them, but they are truths and they are facts and they are part of the history. And I think it's important to try to take the time to take an honest look and figure out how does that work its way into a story or into a narrative, just as a statement of fact, as a, you know, one of the goals of writing fiction or realist fiction, historical fiction, is to represent the world accurately, and those are accurate facts in the world that are deserving of representation.
Yeah. Let me ask you this: can you tell me something good?
Yeah, you know, I've been thinking a lot about my son, who's 16, and as difficult as the pandemic and the quarantine has been for all of us, it is incredibly difficult for teenagers who are in these sort of years of social development. And so I've been trying to spend more time with him and get him out to do things. And we, just a couple of days ago, went up to Walnut Creek to take our dog for a walk. And while we were at Walnut Creek, you know, we're, you know, walking down these winding paths, and here's an enormous, you know, Texas rat snake across the trail, which, you know, that they don't hurt you, but they're pretty intimidating because they're huge and they're fat, and it just took its time along the trail. And we probably stood there for 5 minutes while this snake then worked its way up a tree and worked its way up the branches, and then seemed to look down and look at us from up here. And then we worked our way down the trail a little bit more, and there in the trail was a Texas redhead centipede. Have you ever seen one of those? This
is your good thing?
This is a good thing. I'm getting there, I promise. So,
okay, because I'm terrified right now.
If you've never seen a Texas redhead centipede, Google it, and it looks like a prop from a horror movie. They're long, they're big, black bodies, yellow legs, redhead.
Yeah,
and then
I will not be Googling that.
Like a little further down the trail, there was a dead frog that might seem sad, but our dog was like so excited, rolling around on this dead frog, like rubbing her face on the dead frog. And it just felt like, you know, there is so much boisterous joy out there in the world just waiting for us. If we can just get our act together and stop hurting each other. That it's just out there, that even in times like this, nature and the world are still going about their business and are still having a pretty good time at it. And so I think there's so much joy to be found whenever we're all finally ready for it.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I find nothing joyful about a snake looking at me.
The rat snakes are good snakes.
Okay, I believe you. I believe you. I'll have to believe you on that. What are you going to read to us tonight? What are you going to share with us?
So I'm in the revision stage of my third novel right now, and as I was saying before, this is about a bike race called the Circuit de France that the Nazis staged in 1942 in September as a way to try to unify the French people under occupation. And so the race was 6 days. It went through the north, it went down into the south. It was supposed to unify occupied France and Vichy France and get everybody very excited about being occupied. And so that's sort of the central story of this novel. And this is a page that comes about 25% into the book. It's the very first stage of the race, trying to sort of capture what that might have been like. And the race was a disaster, by the way. It was poorly organized. There was sabotage. The French resistance got involved, and they were smuggling documents down into the south of France by hiding it in the tubes of bicycles. So it was a completely chaotic event. But the page I'm reading today is from the chapter that's the first chapter that deals with the very first day of the race.
Cool. I'm so excited. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, out there in your virtual world, I want you to imagine that all the books currently behind John Pipkin right now, all of them are able to suddenly fly off the shelves and flap all their different pages applauding, and the sound that it makes together, it seems like it's just noise, but then it comes clear and it says with paperous vigor, John Pipkin, John Pipkin, John Pipkin.
Thank you, Owen. And even though this is virtual, I'm going to go a little old school and actually read one page from a piece of paper. So as I was saying, this is the first page of the first day of the fake Tour de France. It begins, as many things do, with the firing of a gun. And though Claude Sinclair is expecting it, though he has raced 100 times before and each time the beginning is the same, when the gun sounds, he flinches and his foot slips from the pedal, and from the embarrassed laughter around him, it is clear that he is not the only rider startled. It is an incongruous thing, the firing of a weapon, designed only for one purpose, as a means of announcing the start of a sporting event. No one moves forward as another wave of laughter floats through the gathered riders, 69 men in all, as they look to each other as though seeking permission to begin, and someone asks if the gun is loaded with blanks or real bullets. The gun is in the hand of the race director, Jean Lulot, the editor of La France Socialiste, and he is standing in the back of a dark blue cabriolet, waving the gun over his head, unsure if he should fire it again. But then the cyclists at the front of the bunch lurch forward, and the rest follow hesitantly as the mass of riders slowly unpacks itself, starting and starting again as each rider tries to claim space on the road. From the crowded sidewalks, 2 German officers in black with red armbands shout, "Schnell, schneller!" And the cyclists yell back that a day of 200 kilometers does not begin with a sprint. And under their breath they mutter, "Imbecile" and "Crétin." This is only the départ fictif, and they will not reach the départ réel until they are outside the city, on an open road where it will be safe to begin racing for real. It begins more like a parade than a race. A banner announcing the start of the Circuit de France stretches across the street, and the red flags with the stark swastika flutter from lampposts and buildings. A loud brassy band on a raised platform begins playing Joseph Haydn's anthem, Das Lied der Deutschen, though no one is singing the familiar lyrics added later by August Hoffmann, Deutschland, Deutschland, über alles. Along the sidewalks, people have gathered to cheer and wave handkerchiefs, and some have come only to stand and stare silently. The cyclists bump elbows, rub shoulders, jostle for space as the pack thins and bunches and stretches out along the road like a stuttering murmuration of birds. They roll forward behind the cabriolet, and Jean Lulot is still standing in the back of the seat, encouraging the riders to follow and waving his empty hand overhead because no one has supplied him with the proper flag. Together, the car and the riders pick up speed and round the first corner on the way out of Paris. And now Lulot is waving both arms frantically overhead, urging the riders to stop, and he nearly stumbles into the front seat as the cabriolet swerves and shudders to a stop, and there, in the middle of the road, is a horse and a cart and an old woman in a black dress and a shawl selling strawberries. The cyclists slow and scatter and shout warnings to each other to stop, and the back of the group almost crashes into the front, and there is more yelling and jeering at the organizers for not closing the streets properly. And then the Paris police in their blue uniforms are yelling at the old woman to get out of the road and demanding to know how she found her way onto the course. And then the cyclists are yelling at the police in the old woman's defense, and they are yelling that they like strawberries, and who doesn't like the bright taste of strawberries on a damp and chilly day? And some of the cyclists stop to dig in their pockets for coins, and they buy the fruit wrapped in strips of newspaper, and they shove them in their back pockets of their jerseys for later. And the old woman is yelling now too, and she throws a strawberry at one of the policemen when he tries to lead her horse from the road, and she says that it is the middle of the day in the middle of the week, and people must work to make a living, and so this is no time for a bike race. And anyway, isn't there a war going on? And another strawberry flies through the air and bounces off a policeman's shoulder, and a second policeman grabs the reins of the old woman's horse, and they remind her that the war is finished here, and that Paris must now get on with living, and there is an important bicycle race taking place, and this brings cheers from the people who have gathered to watch. And their cheers are not for the police or for the cyclists, but for the old woman. And then the crowd surges forward into the street, and some of the people run to her to buy handfuls of strawberries from her cart, just to throw them at the police and at the race officials and in the cabriolet and at the riders on their bicycles, in the hope that the strawberries will miss their targets and accidentally hit the German officers in black, since it is still not a crime to have poor aim. That's all.
John, that's great. It's so good, and it is interesting. I don't know. You're writing about the past, but I can't help but think of how what it's saying about now, and I don't know. It's just great. I really love that.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, I think about different people who are trying to ignore what's happening right now. Like, no, the war here is over. Everything's fine, you know. And that was great.
And you know, I wrote this about a week before everything started. It just
Wow.
Yeah.
I think the title. So a lot of people have been writing stuff in the chat rooms, but I think "Murmuration of Birds" might be a nice one-page salon. I think it sums up everything that writers do. Just a murmuration of birds that eventually will be eaten by a giant rat snake that is being pursued by a red-headed centipede who had previously killed a frog that for some reason a dog likes to roll over, because you know how dogs love those frog
These are
corpses.
beautiful things. These are good things.
They are. I agree. Here's to you, John, and thank you. You're right. The world still
Thanks,
has
Bob.
so much beauty. All right. Before we go to our final reader, we do have something that we have to do, and that is part of our one-page salon lottery. We do a thing at One-Page Salon where we invite people to read at the One-Page Salon. Sometimes it's just that night. We call it the BYOP, bring your own page. And someone will have a page and we'll bring them out of a hat and they'll read on the spot. And sometimes we'll have that we get picked out of the hat and they'll be reading for the next one. So we're going to have another one of these in July. It's going to be another virtual one. We really hope that you join us. We're so excited. And now Becca's going to tell us, people have been signing up. Becca's going to tell us who won the One-Page Salon lottery. It's not Shirley Jackson's lottery. It's not Scary Lottery. In literary circles, lottery is kind of a scary
Pick
thing.
a number. You're going to pick a number.
I pick a number?
Yeah. I'm not
Okay.
choosing this. I'm putting
Okay.
it on you, buddy.
Uh,
I will mention that we are we want these to happen on a regular basis. So we're doing the first Saturday of every month, except in July, the first Saturday of the month is July 4th. So we're doing it on the second Saturday of the month, July 11th. So everybody mark your calendars. Owen, pick a number between 1 and 14.
you know why July 4th is an important day, by the way, don't you? It's when Walt Whitman self-published Leaves of Grass. And that's an important thing for us all to remember.
I thought maybe it was your birthday.
No, I'm a Capricorn. But
know
it was the birth of Leaves of Grass in 1855. Come on, beautiful book.
All right. Great.
Okay, so
Thank you.
I will pick a number. Let's see. I'm going to pick the
1 and
number
14.
I'm going to pick the number 9.
So we'll see. We are requiring that the person be here to accept their challenge. Rachel Barkus, are you here?
You can raise your hand.
Here, Rachel.
Let's see.
Say so in the chat.
Oh, yes. Let's do that. The chat.
Yeah.
If you guys, by the way, for those of you who haven't, there's a chat bottom. Chat bottom. Don't go to chatbottom.com. That's avoid that webpage. But there's a chat button at the bottom of your screen in Zoom. And what's really fun is while people are reading, while we're talking, you can be also having side conversations with other people here. You can directly conversation with one person or also just with everybody. And I've seen people that I know and love. Michael Yang is out there, Stacy Swan.
Yang's here? No way.
No, he is.
You saw him in the chat box?
I ran into him in the chat box.
You know who else is here?
Who's
Rachel
that?
Frickin' Barkus.
Oh, well.
The July, she's gonna read. Okay, Rachel, so we'll reach out to you and you'll be reading one page in July. We'll send you all the details and we're excited to have you. Congratulations.
So cool.
And then before you move on, really quick, Owen, I just want to say that you said so many nice things about the Writers League and we appreciate it, of course, but let's all, snap, bark like a dog, purr, whatever you want to do for Owen Egerton, because he is the host with the most and he makes this happen every month and just gives 110%. So in the chat box, come on, celebrate this guy. He deserves it. He takes time away from his family, his beautiful family, and he's here with us to give us something to smile about and be happy about tonight. So
people are making funny noises.
Make whatever noise works for you. He's not wearing any pants. Whatever. Hot shed, no pants.
Hot shed, no pants. That's going to be my memoir. Hot shit, no pants.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
And don't forget also, thank you guys so much, actually. Everyone who's here, I really, really appreciate. And the funds that you did donate to Deep Vellum Publishing and their emergency fund is doing a great thing to keep writers afloat. And in the best of times, it's not an easy thing to keep writers afloat. And so you're putting money towards something great. There will be stories born that someone had the time and maybe the mental time as well to type, to put into print because of the donations that you did. And even if you couldn't donate money, but you're here, you're doing something there. You are helping new stories being born. And they will be the stories that we read, they will be the stories our children read, and the children's children, and they are important. And someday, 600 years from now, the future Bill Cotter will be holding up one of those stories on a page and said, yes, I will take $11 for this.
Oh, I already offered Bill 12 for that book. So I'm going to disappear so that you can bring up our final reader of the night. And I'm so excited that you guys are going to get to hear from this lady who is here all the way virtually from Dallas. So I am out of here. Have a great rest of the night. And thank you, Owen.
Thank you. Thank you, Becca. Okay, Suntory Array is our final reader of the night. It's so glad to have her. She read at one of the very first one-page salons that we ever did in Dallas. She's fantastic. She also hosts her own literary series called Lit Night that hopefully she'll tell us a little bit about, that has been also going on virtually during everything that's been happening recently. Her novel Mourner's Bench is an award winner. It's a really beautiful book. And just really excited to hear. Let's go ahead and bring her on right now. Sandra Reafe. Hi. Hey, are you there? Oh, there you go. All right. Oh, good. How's Dallas?
Hear me, right?
We can hear you. Yeah. How's Dallas right now?
Well, we're here. It's a major city. I live right downtown near in the midst of everything that's happening. So it's a big reminder of 4 years ago when we were protesting in a similar fashion when 5 policemen were killed. And I had just left that protest before it happened. So which was walking distance from where I live. I had walked down and just had decided to walk home before it happened. I had an opportunity to write about it for the New York Times called My Protest, My Prayers, if anybody want to read it. I read it the other day just to see if I felt any differently about what's going on, and it's appropriate, as appropriate today as it was back then. It was when Orlando Castilla was, I'd say he was murdered by the police with his daughter in the back seat. And that, I don't think I would ever forget that or what happened recently. So it's been, it's weird. The one young lady that the police came into her home reminded me of my own situation where the police came into my home while I was sleeping, and I was awakened to one policeman beating on my door and the other one in my stairway holding a rifle. I was innocent, of course, but for some reason I still have to say that they shouldn't have been in my home. They were in the wrong home, and so when this happened to Brianna in Kentucky, I thought, like, you know, how fortunate I am that it didn't happen to me.
It's terrifying. It's terrifying. Are you feeling in the midst of all this? You know, one of the things I think so many of us are feeling like, oh no, we're here again. Please God, let it be different this time. Let us start to move in a different direction. Are you feeling that this is different? Do you feel like that people are listening that weren't listening before, like now?
Since I write about political and social issues, and seems to be that, I do believe that I may have researched more than most average people, but I think that each time we come to this place, we chip away a little bit. So it's of this systemic racist situation from before. This systemic racism, I think we chip away a little bit away at that. We did in the 60s. We did every time we're protesting. So some people say nothing is going to happen, nothing ever happens. Something is always happening. We're always, even when we're progressing, feels like we're progressing backward. I think we're continuously progressing forward. And so something is always happening. I don't know if this feels different. I know what is different about it is I've been sheltering in place since March 13th. And then toppled with all of the other things that's happening. So that may be why people say this feels very different. But I believe that, I don't know what we'll come away with this. We're also coming up on voting another political cycle. And so I think all of that combined makes this feel very different. And every time, if we can put a crack in the system, we can break a little piece off a little bit more and more every time. I believe that's a good thing.
Yeah, I agree with that. Well, let me ask you these three questions. First one, what are you reading right now?
So I've been reading a lot. First of all, I can't say what I've been judging, but I've been judging a couple of for a couple of awards. So that was a lot of books.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to say I am done with that. It's, as much as I love books, it's very different to do that type of reading. And but what I'm enjoying reading right now are the authors that are going to be the guest of our 2-year anniversary for the Lit Night reading series, which is next Tuesday, June 9th at 7 p.m. on Facebook.com/PEN America.
/PEN America?
PEN America, yeah. PEN America is helping us host
Great.
This event along with Deep Vellum Books. So Deep Vellum has really been active and all of this. So please give to support authors. It's not easy being an author, but if we didn't make that sacrifice, you wouldn't have anything to read.
You just have Twitter.
Yeah.
That would,
And that's good. I get all my information from Twitter, but no, that's good. But I'm reading those authors' books, which is Natalie Brazil, Queen Sugar, Fawazia Karimi, I'm probably not pronouncing the name right, but she's the first American book that Deep Vellum Publishing is publishing. Above Us, The Milky Way, wonderful book. Natalie Brazil, The Queen Sugar is a series on the ONET. Deb Olin Unfurth, Barn 8, great book. And Renee Sims, somebody that only a few people know about her, but they should, more people should. Meet Behind Mars. I always want to say Meet Me Behind Mars, but it's just the Meet Behind Mars, Renee Sims. So that's what I'm reading now. If you want to find out more about the Lit Night reading series, on Facebook, we are Lit Night, LITNIGHT, one word. On Twitter, we're at Lit Night Dallas. And on Instagram, we're also at Lit Night Dallas. And we're excited to be online like you are, Owen. We can invite more people are tuning in. So thank you. I love the audience. We couldn't be here without you as well.
Oh, it's great. That's great. You've already told me a lot of things that are good. Can you, the last question, can you tell me something good?
Jennifer saying that she's reading my book. Do you guys have any idea how that feels when someone you've never met, just met tonight online? And she didn't tell me ahead of time, so that's great. That is great news to hear that she's reading my book.
That I completely agree. So Suntory, what are you going to be reading to us tonight?
So it was, I've been working during the pandemic, so which is good. And I thought about reading from that book, from the new book that I'm working on, but I decided not to. Before I decided to move forward with this book, with the new book, that I hopefully will finish this next draft by the end of June. I was working on two books. One of them was titled Lies Granny Told Me, and not like real lies, but folk tales and myths, those type of lies. And the other book was 11, and I thought that book was so heavy for tonight. It's set back in the Arkansas Delta during 2017, when the state of Arkansas decided to execute 8 men within 11 days because one of the drugs used for the execution was going to expire.
Yeah.
So that's the premise of that book. And it's not easy to write during this time, but I am working every day and I'm really happy about that as well.
You know, I just realized as I went through the questions, I think I skipped the one that fits into that. Like, how has writing changed for you? It was interesting because you even started out, I think, talking about that, of reading something that you written years ago for a similar situation. But how has 2020, with everything that's been happening and being where you are?
Fortunately, and I'm very surprised, and I'm surprised about how I'm taken to being sequestered, being sheltered in place. I have a writing partner. We meet Monday through Friday at 1 o'clock on Zoom. And we say hello, and then we write until one of us say, this is day for me. So usually it's around 5 or 6 and sometimes 7, but yeah, so that is, I found that keeping a schedule, like writing other things, cooking, I'm enjoying cooking, but just keeping a schedule is what's keeping me sane. I'm also finding out, without having all other people in my ear, because I'm a busy, like stay really busy. The things that I like cooking. Like I enjoy cooking. Like we don't get this opportunity very often to really sit with ourselves and say, well, what do I like? Or do I like that because Owen suggested it to me and I've been doing it for so long. So you get to see what I like, what I don't like, just things like that. And I actually found out that I really enjoy my own company.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, okay. Well, I'm super excited to hear you read and really, really excited for all the things that you're doing. Ladies and gentlemen, out there, wherever you are, a final reader of the evening, just go ahead and make the sounds of angels. Go ahead. We've done the demons, but let's make the sounds of angels, both singing, both wings flapping, every kind of joy, all right now, pointing towards Dallas and Suntory Array, Suntory Array, sorry. And we are so excited to hear you read.
Hey everyone, thank you for being on here. Thank you for waiting till I got to my turn. I've enjoyed all of the readings, and it's so funny that Jennifer was reading Mourner's Bench because my book deals with, are we all still here? Because it seems that like Owen froze on me. But my book also deals with otherworldly things. So the title was Lies Granny Told Me. And this comes from what I'm going to read you is about Miss Dizzy. So here we go. The last time I read for Owen, the lights went out. I couldn't see anything. So hopefully, fingers crossed. Not long after Miss Rachel's fiance Moses was killed by his horse, she started seeing folks who hadn't crossed over to the other side, the ones whose spirits was still restless. And some months after that, her long-term friend and widower, Miss Clara, started calling her Miss Dizzy. Maybe a year or so later, folks in town picked up on it, and from that day forward, she was known as Miss Dizzy. Folks crossed the street as she sashayed down the road, Windershan, clockwise and counterclockwise. All she wanted was to be left alone, to be normal. But that wasn't going to happen as long as folks needed to get messages to their loved ones, and Miss Dizzy was their medium. The first person to contact Miss Dizzy was Carl Burrell. He was Clara's husband. After the men had lowered Miss Dizzy's fiance Moses into his grave, right after she placed one red rose in a hymnal on top of his casket, she felt a tug on her wrist. She knew it was Carl Burrell. He passed on a few years before. What was he still doing here? First, she tried to wiggle her wrist from his hand, but he gripped it tighter. She jerked her arm so hard, folks thought she might be getting the Holy Ghost at Moses' gravesite, and which was unusual. Many had thrown themselves on top of the casket and yelled, "Take me with you." But as far back as she could remember, nobody had ever slung her arm back and forth like a church band. Clara grabbed her and held her tightly, but Miss Dizzy continued to jerk her arm. "Let go of me," she screamed, and Clara let go. It wasn't unlikely for folks to speak of the dead as though they were still alive. So Miss Dizzy wasn't completely startled when she felt Carl Burrell's bony finger around her wrist. She'd know his right hand anywhere, primarily because she and Clara were standing at the fence when Moses accidentally cut off his middle finger while chopping wood. When Carl Burrell was alive, he was a huge, strapping, flat-footed man with a hearty laugh. His disposition was quite opposite of his wife, Clara. Now, although Dizzy could only see his spirit, it carried the same physical qualities as he had when he was alive. There was no mistaking him for anyone else. "I needs to talk to you," Carl Burrell said in his same old baritone voice. She stomped her right foot. "Not now," Dizzy said. Clara looked confused. "What's the matter, Dizzy?" At the sound of Clara's voice, Carl Burrell loosened his grip. Miss Dizzy stared straight into his soul and then fell backwards into Moses' grave. It scared her so badly that she just lay there, stiff as Moses. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, that was so good. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, I'm very excited for this book. When is this book going to be out in the world?
No, that one I paused on because of of
everything. So okay, so this one is out in the world.
No, you said write something new.
Yeah.
So it's a new. I still tinker around with it, and maybe one day I get back to it. It's set in between the confluence of the Mississippi and Arkansas River, and it's a town that vanished. So this is where this is coming from. And
oh my
it's
gosh!
a story that I love, but as soon as I finish this novel, then I'll get back to these stories.
Okay. Oh well, I am super excited about that. And again, it's going to be next Tuesday, right?
Next Tuesday at 7:00. You can watch it on Facebook Live, on the PEN America Facebook page, Facebook.com/PEN America.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. That was beautiful. And I was like choosing different things that might be a possible title. I think possible title for tonight's one-page salon that you gave us, and see what you think about this, is Getting the Holy Ghost.
Oh.
I think that would be a great one.
Good to me.
Okay. Thank you. Suntory Array, ladies and gentlemen. All right. So we are coming now to the very end. We've got one more piece of business, and then I'm going to ask, right after I do this, I'm going to ask that all the other writers who have read tonight will come back on, and we can snap and clap and cheer for them. But before we do, we have to do one last thing. So I'm going to read to you all the possible names of tonight's one-page salon. June 6, 2021 Page Salon. We're going to name it. We're going to christen it. It's going to be our baby. We're going to pass it around. All of us will hold and keep the baby in our house for a few days and raise it collectively. We're going to co-parent tonight, so we'll name it. Here are the possible names, and then you can just vote by putting it in the chat room, and we'll see which one possibly wins. So possible names for tonight: This Exquisite Mess, Mirror with Eyes, Need Him to Want, The Scourge of Central Texas, Murmuration of Birds, Getting the Holy Ghost. What's it going to be? Let's see. What's it going to be? Some people saying The Scourge of Central Texas. Oh, other people like Exquisite Mess, Getting the Holy Ghost. Exquisite. It's, oh, I'm seeing Hot Shed No Pants is also making a run as a write-in one. Murmuration of Birds. You can just say M of Birds. Chat Bottom is what John Pipkin likes. Another write-in. Oh my goodness. Well, it's coming down to it. I think what I'm going to go ahead, I'm seeing it. Oh, there's different things. I'm going to go ahead and let Evan pick. Evan has been our technical advisor the whole time. He has been the person who's making sure that we're making everything run. He's the Scotty of this enterprise. So let's go ahead. Evan, why don't you come on camera really quickly and tell us, thank you for making the engines run, Evan, and making this possible. You get to choose. I know Evan's on staff with the Writers League of Texas, and they're really lucky to have him. So what do you think?
Thank you so much. Though I think I have to go with the voice of the people. I'm seeing a majority people claiming we should call it This Exquisite Mess.
This Exquisite Mess. I love it. I love it.
As it is written, so shall it be.
Thank you, Evan. And when Joe Brundage puts out his poem and also calls it This Exquisite Mess, we'll say he plagiarized the Writers League of Texas and One Page Salon. That sounds really good. Hey, let's do this. Let's bring up all the different writers if we can. If you're still here, writers, let's get you on camera and out there in the world. I know it's silly to clap in your own house. I know it's a weird thing to do, but we are all in the same world, and our world is just one big room. And I'm so excited that we're all sharing this night together. Please put your hands together for all our cool writers. We had Joe Brundage tonight. We had Jennifer Ritz, Bill Cotter, John Pipkin, Tim Bauer, and Joe, I already mentioned Joe, and Suntory Array, and of course, Becca Oliver. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. This has been the One Page Salon. It's been a really great experience being here with you. Make sure that you're spending time helping yourself, spending time helping other people, sharing stories, reading stories, amplifying voices of others in all kinds of ways, and be good, and be safe, and keep sane. Thank you, guys. Good night.
Thanks, Owen.